Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Christy Vann with Fantastic Finances, and on this channel I teach velocity banking. But today I'm going to be bringing on someone who is actually doing velocity banking and having so much success that he wanted to talk about it, and I'm excited that he is on with me today. I just want you guys to realize that there are people that's having great success with velocity banking, that this is not a scam. Once you get started and rolling, you're going to see your debt literally melt away. That's what happened for me. And obviously, that's what's happening for Steve. Steve, welcome to the channel. And tell us a little bit about your success in velocity banking and what you've actually done to get ready to start the velocity. How did you learn about it? Kind of give us details about how you came to know about velocity banking and what were your first steps to get started.
Fantastic. Christy, thanks so much for having me today. And I really do appreciate the platform to be able to share with people. Look, this is not my typical MO. I don't look for opportunities to draw attention to myself. But what's happened with my wife and I was such a radical change in thought pattern and such a successful thing for us that I thought it was only fair to share. I would want somebody to tell me. I wish somebody, had told us years ago about this, because it would have radically changed the way we handle some things. My wife and I are both professionals, and she is a school teacher. I'm a general manager for a service company, a very large one, and have had, measure success in life. But we always just seem to be behind the eight ball in debt, whatever reasons, whether it was too much financing, we got away from the cars. I drive a company vehicle, so we don't have massive car payments. But, perfect example of what got us started looking. I think my wife is the one that I have to credit for getting us involved in this. And it stemmed from the fact that we bought a new house. My company had transferred me, bought a new house. And we went through the process of updating that house and doing some major renovations, including the purchase of a pool that we put in the backyard. We made decent money. We weren't completely overextended, but it's frustrating to my wife for us to be at the age that we are and still be staring down the barrel of debt. So she was just researching and surfing the web when she stumbled on one of your videos. She, up to that point for the last 20 years, because she's always been the saver and I'm the spender, she was in charge of our finances. And as part of the process of taking care of our finances, which at that point was, embarrassingly enough, we've never had a budget. We've never followed a budget. We just, kind of lived paycheck to paycheck,
Right.
and she paid the bills. We always had enough to keep a roof over our heads and plenty to eat and all that kind of stuff. But it just bothered her that we had this debt hanging out there. So when we remodeled this house and we built the pool, she thought, I really want to find a way to try to pay us off. And I think she said to me that what she was actually looking for was like a budget spreadsheet.
Okay.
And that led to one of your videos.
Wow.
And she said she watched the video and then she watched it again. And I think she said by the time she worked up the nerve to say something to me about it, she had watched it about 6 or 7 times.
Right.
And she said about the 4th or 5th time, stuff started to click. And it just started kind of making sense. But being a school teacher, she's very good at what she does, but she didn't have the confidence from a business standpoint to go, yeah, this is what we need to do. I run a $12 million business every day. And, interestingly enough, I'm super involved with our profit and loss statement, our budget, everything at work, but was completely disconnected from my own personal finances.
Right.
And so she came to me and she said, hey, I think I've stumbled on something and I really want you to watch it. I really want you to look at it. And tell me if this is something that resonates with you, because I just feel like this is something that we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So I did. I trust her. She's my partner of 38 years, and I trust her judgment. I trust her instincts. And so I watched your video. The first time I went through it, I kind of shook my head and went, I don't know. The second time I watched it, it was kind of a little less, hesitancy. And I think it was something that you actually said in the video that still resonates with me now that I remember, which was the programming that we all get conditioned to when it comes to our personal finances is so pervasive and it's so powerful and it's so ingrained in everything financially that we do, that we kind of get clouded over and we get that fuzzy vision, and it's hard for us to break out of that mentality.
Right.
And so I kept watching the video. Then, of course, it led me to seeking out other videos. I think what really, really kind of tipped me over the scale was I watched enough of your videos that I watched people with a good cash flow use this successfully. I watched how the numbers worked. Then I watched the same thing work with people that didn't have great cash flow, and how it could still be a powerful tool to help them get cash flow.
Right.
And, you know, as I kept watching this and I saw the techniques and the ideas work from different scenario to different scenario, I went, wait a minute. And being in business, the whole concept of cash flow really, really set well with me, because that's how businesses are run too, right?
Right.
Everything's live and die by your cash flow.
Right.
And we, up until that point, my personal finances, we never talked about cash flow. We just talked about, can we make our monthly payments?
Right. Exactly.
You know, and you never get out of debt that way. You're staying in prison.
Right.
So I started at the very beginning, and that was after I convinced myself watching this, and I had a paradigm shift in my own mind. I reached out to you, and I went on your. I remember actually what I did was I direct messaged you in Messenger for Facebook, and within a very short period of time, you shot me a message and said, you know, because my question was, hey. At that point, I didn't even know that you offered any kind of guidance or training or anything like that. You said, hey, I offer these, you know, one-on-ones. Here's my link. Feel free to go sign up, pick a date. And I did. I picked a date that was about 30 days out, because I felt like I still had some studying and learning to do. And in between having talked to you on Messenger and set the date to go meet up with you, I stumbled onto the MoneyMax account.
Yes.
And started researching that out of curiosity as well. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This kind of looks like this is taking the velocity banking and putting it on steroids.
Right.
And so I was fortunate enough to hook up with a young lady at MoneyMax and did a free one-on-one with her, where I was able to kind of study what that did. And what it really answered a couple of things for us. Number one, it solidified and corroborated the velocity philosophy to the core. But then it helped us to do what my wife had originally set out to do at the beginning, and that was get us on a budget.
Right.
And so because it involved software, which is one of the things I specialize in, I use a lot of it at work. You know, my wife graciously said, hey, I really think you're supposed to handle this. You seem to have connected with it. You get it. It makes total sense to you. And if it's going to involve software, I really want you to be able to drive that. So I jumped on, I bought the MoneyMax, I immediately uploaded all of our banking information. And here's what happened. In a matter of 90 days, and I guess this is where we have to make that, you know, results are not typical of every situation. You know, this is my situation.
Right.
We did have some decent cash flow, you know, but in the first 90 days, I was able to pay off $17,000 worth of credit cards.
Wow.
Using a combination of the velocity approach, but using it in conjunction with the MoneyMax. I just kept watching these little dinky, for example, our Lowe's and our Home Depot. You know, I watched those just disappear because I had maxed those out during our renovations, and I'm just like, you know, I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, of course, I'm making my payment.
Right.
I'm going to live until I'm 80, and you know, I'm going to paycheck forever, and you know, what difference does it make? You know? So, but watching those credit cards go away. Then what I did, this is just me, but I when I started breaking down and really diving into our personal budget, I saw how much of our credit was interest based. I knew that our credit score was good enough that I went out and I managed to get every credit card that we had transferred to credit cards that had 0% interest for 18 months or more.
Wow. Okay.
And I did that just to be able to have a bigger impact, so that our cash flow actually had a bigger impact on the principal.
Right.
So that's part of the reason why we were able to pay off also as much as we did, is because I was transferring these high interest rate cards, retail cards like Lowe's, Home Depot, stuff like that, over to these non-interest bearing accounts, push all of my cash flow to it. And that was, I'm going to be honest with you, Christy, that was one of the biggest challenges for me mentally. Was you were the one, after we got together and had our initial consultation, the best thing that you advised me was I was not able to get a personal line of credit, and it was because of my credit utilization at the time. I had a great credit score, but I had too much credit utilization.
Right.
And so I was like, man, what do I do now? Well, in our conversation, you identified that I was with USAA Banking.
Right.
And you said, well, wait a minute. You said, I think I have a couple of people that have been with USAA, and if you have a credit card with them, you can set that up as your debt tool.
Exactly.
And that is exactly what I did. So I contacted USAA. I had a $20,000 credit card with them. I set that up, connected it to my checking account with them. It became my overdraft protection for my checking account, but it also became my primary debt tool.
Nice.
And so what I was doing was I was using a combination of that debt tool and my other credit cards that I'd gotten that were interest-free as my living expense cards. And then I would take cash advances off of my USAA and pay those cards off. But I was dumping every dollar of our salaries back onto that USAA card. And that was the part I had the hardest time with, was just getting used to having a zero balance in my checking account.
Yes. Yes. I hear that every day.
Yeah, it's kind of a mental thing, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
But once I got comfortable with that, now, and look, I will say that the key to that is making sure you do the work on the front end of identifying where every dollar of your money's going.
Right.
Because the last thing I wanted was to suddenly start having overdraft situations in my checking. Even though it was covered, I needed to know that everything was. So now I run with an average balance of about $20 in my checking account.
Well, you run yours higher than I do mine. I literally check mine every day. And just because in my mind, if I have $1 sitting in my checking account and I have a balance on any of my lines of credit, I feel like that I'm wasting, whatever the percent is. So, yes.
Yeah, I get it. And I think, that's a really great point you make, because everybody has to find their comfort zone, don't they?
Yes.
And for me to go where I was stockpiling every dollar I possibly could in my bank account, and I was scared to death, I kept trying to leave like $1,000 in there just as a safety net. For me to get to where I finally went, you know what? I don't need that $1,000. I dropped it down to 20, and I'm perfectly fine now.
Nice.
But, I think some of that insecurity came from when I first started tackling all this, having not been the one to keep up with our finances. I really had to have a month or two where I could identify where everything was going.
Right. Yes. And, it takes about 3 months to get comfortable in that. It took me that long because I remember thinking, wow, it's just so foreign. That's why I call it's a foreign concept to American finance, because it was so foreign to me to think to take my expense money and put it onto my credit card first and then just pay my expenses, because you're always like, but that payment's due, it's due on the 25th. Very, very different way to think, but wow, it works. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing I've gotten so excited about is we took it one step further. Also a connection through you was we ended up having a conversation with First Savings Bank there in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there going, wait a minute, I've got all this equity sitting in this home that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
I became fascinated with the concept of HELOC used as your debt tool and tying it to a checking account that sweeps on a nightly basis.
Right.
And so I got a hold of a contact there at First Savings Bank, started talking to them. I've gone through the process, and we are literally now probably a couple of weeks from closing on a HELOC that, again, I would encourage people, this is the thing that we get hung up on. I'm sitting in a home right now that I bought a little over about 18 months ago. I got it locked in at 4.75% on a 30-year mortgage, and even though that's not down in the 2 to 3% that a lot of people are sitting out there with, still 4.75 compared to what the current rates are is still considered a win.
Yes.
And when I was going through analyzing the numbers on this HELOC, talking about potentially tapping into the equity sitting in my home to use as an opportunity to pay, we broke the numbers down. And when we get this all done and I start making my HELOC my debt tool, I will have that house paid off in about 7 years, along with the rest of my debt. The first thing we're paying off with the equity is the pool that was $60,000 sitting out there on a 10% interest rate.
Wow.
And a lot of people that are listening to this right now are going to go, why in the world would you give up 4.75? And I think my HELOC is going to finalize at around 7.12.
Right.
And that's where you need to do your homework on the way mortgages are set up. The interest is set up on mortgages because you have your mortgage interest and then you have your actual, real interest. And, with the way they front load the mortgages with the interest, and they are getting all their money up on the front side, I'm still coming out light years ahead and saving myself hundreds of thousands of dollars in mortgage interest by doing the HELOC and letting it sweep my salary every single night and applying that towards the principal of my home. Right. And instead of having to take 30 years to pay off this mortgage, I'll have it paid off in about 7 or 8 years.
That is wonderful. And when you start using that with the MoneyMax account, I'm pretty sure you're going to beat that 7 years.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm always one of those people that tries to to err on the side of caution.
Right.
I don't like blue skying things.
Right.
I'm going to make it worst case scenario 7 or 8 years. But you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Using the MoneyMax, every time I get a dollar that's available that I want to funnel somewhere, I'll be able to see how that's going to have an impact. I've played with that MoneyMax and said, okay, so here's an example in my life. I'm on the verge of being promoted at work, and after 5 years with this company, they're talking about a $25,000 to $30,000 a year pay increase.
Nice.
Well, I took that money and I plugged it into the MoneyMax to see what kind of impact will this have. And you're exactly right. Instead of 7 or 8 years to pay that house off, it shuffles it down to about 5.
Yes. Yes.
And so, that's the kind of thing that MoneyMax account allows you to do is you can sit there and play with the numbers and do hypotheticals in real time that allow you to see what kind of impact you can have on your overall personal finances. But, all of that story aside, I think the thing that I would want to get across to your audience and to tell anybody listening to this, I didn't know Christy. I've never met you. I live in Oklahoma. I think you live in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I was just like you. If you stumbled on one of her videos and you're sitting there scratching your head going, this has got to be a scam. This has got to be made up. This can't be possible. I'm old enough to know that I have made mistakes in my life and bought into a too good to be true scenario in the past. And I swore to myself I would never do it again.
Exactly.
And the old adage that if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. There's a reason that there's the word usually, because I think that it has to leave room for things like this. The reason that I finally took a leap and started looking into this so seriously is because I had to watch it. I had to do the numbers. I sat down and put my own numbers into the hypothetical situation. I applied every technique I saw you applying in the videos, and I had to prove it to myself before I was willing to even have a conversation with you about it.
Good.
And so do your due diligence, do your homework, but don't be afraid of this. The more that you dig into it, the more that you apply the techniques, the more that you embrace a change in the paradigm in your mind, the more it will make sense, and it will absolutely change your life. My wife and I are now looking at, instead of worrying about how are we going to have a house paid off, how are we going to be financially set for retirement, which for her could be as few as 8 years away, and stuff like that. I remember I used to have nights where I would try to go to sleep, Christy, thinking, how am I going to bring this all back together and have everything paid off so that we can enjoy some semblance of retirement?
Right.
And now I don't even think about, I'm not even worried about it. We will have a beautiful home completely paid for. We will be completely, absolutely debt free, owe nobody.
Wow.
And honestly, between as far as the credit cards and all the other credit that we have, that stuff will be paid off easily within the next year to 18 months. The only thing that I'll owe on is that house, and that'll be paid off, conservatively within 5 to 7 years. And so it's just given us a lease back on life.
Nice.
We really, really have. It just gives you a lot of hope. It really makes you feel like I'm in control of my life. That was one of the things that we always kind of felt like with the debt, is that you're not really in control of anything. You are a prisoner to that debt.
Right.
And I did that for a lot of years. I did that for so many years. Some good years, some bad years, some no debt, some more debt. But now I just see light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just a radical improvement in our overall quality of life.
Well, that makes me so happy to hear. The point is that Velocity Banking does work. Now,
Yep.
You got diligent with it. You started watching the videos. You started looking at the different scenarios and how, this or that could apply to you. And, even with the MoneyMax account, I am in love with the MoneyMax account as well. I've bought into it, and I am looking at a new property. So I have every intention of using what I teach along with the MoneyMax account, because I know how much faster that it's going to work off my debt. Now, the thing that people get so tied up about when it comes to the MoneyMax account is because there is a charge for that account. So,
Right.
But I've done the numbers on that as well, especially with my clients. And by the time you see the interest savings within the first couple of weeks, couple of months, you have way been refunded for the amount that you spent.
I looked at it. I did the same thing. I looked at it. I thought, boy, that's an awful lot of money for software. Here's the thing that I would tell everybody: how long have you tried to do it without any kind of help?
Right.
Are you making any progress? And are you winning or are you losing?
Right.
Then the other thing that I would say is this: you're exactly right. I sat down and for me to pay what I needed to for that MoneyMax software, I ended up putting it on a credit card. Here I am talking about getting out of debt, and I'm going and I'm racking up more debt.
Right.
But then I sat down and I looked at it, and that software, just in the 90 days that I saved all that, paid for itself 3 times over.
Nice. Wow.
I mean, because stop and think about it. I mean, that was 7. Look, there's a power in being able to look at that software at a glance, look at your accounts, look at your incoming, your outgoing, and at a glance, you have all of the decision-making power right there at your fingertips. There is huge power in that. And so if you don't get the MoneyMax, it's not that you can't do velocity banking, because you can, but you end up doing it on a pad of paper, and you're trying to keep up with 1,000 moving pieces when the software does that for you.
Right. Exactly. And it structures those payments for you. So you don't even have to think about how much you're supposed to pay on what. It does it for you.
Yeah, when I got my bonus, I got a small bonus for 2023. That gets deposited in, and it immediately told me, this is where you want to put it.
Nice.
This is where you'll have the biggest impact. This is what it'll do for you, and it was all right there in the software. I didn't have to think about it. It gave me the best possible scenario for paying things off fastest.
That is so awesome. I am so excited to hear somebody say that out loud on a recorded video because I hear it all day, every day, and I get emails and I get comments about how using velocity banking with the MMA is really just unbelievable how it's working. I actually had a guy contact me. It's been about 3 weeks ago now. and he told me that he too started out with like an 8.7 year payoff on all of his debt, and he's got it down to a 5.3 year payoff within 4 months. So I mean,
Right.
it moves quickly. It's
Well,
awesome.
and let me make this point too, Christy, because I'll tell you, this is one of the things too that kind of was a hiccup for my wife and I was, and I think listeners need to understand this. Does it take discipline to pay things off? Yes, it does. But one of my questions, we weren't completely finished. I had $10,000 worth of landscaping I needed to do on the front of my house. The 17,000 that I saved was actual 17,000 I paid off. I also spent 10,000 to do that landscaping because I knew it needed to be done, and I wanted that done. I didn't want to be the house in the neighborhood that looked like crap.
Right.
And so I was afraid when I did the money max. I'm going through this. I'm like, well, it's like taking my control away. I won't be able to spend money if I need to or if I want to, and that's the farthest thing from the truth.
Right.
What it does is it gives you the absolute information you need to make a good decision. So we were able to do the landscaping. We didn't have to finance that. That was money that we've set up the money max to build up so that we could just pay for it at one time.
Nice. Okay.
So, if all reality, if you really look at it, if you take that amount of money that we paid for that plus what we paid off, there's almost $27,000 there.
Nice. Wow. That is awesome. So when you finish up with your debt elimination under actual debt that you have right now, how much will you have paid off within 7 to 8 years?
So right now we have 390,000 left on the house, and the outside debts that we have are almost $100,000.
Okay.
So almost $500,000.
Right. In 7 years. That is beautiful. Yep. And that's not unusual. I hear that a lot. I had a lady on, she literally, and I did a video where she cried with me all the way through the session because she was just in the deepest hole that she had ever been in and could not even see how she was going to come out. I couldn't help her because she couldn't get a line of credit. So we had nothing to work with. I sent her to the MMA thinking they couldn't help her because she was in a negative cash flow every month. And she came back with a 2 to 2.5 year payoff on her debt. And she is a new person today. So it can help. It doesn't matter. You don't have to run a multi-million-dollar company. You don't have to make $2,000 a month. It just depends on how your debt and your income line up in that software to make the total difference of what it is you're planning on doing with your debt, which is hopefully to eliminate it. So I just appreciate you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the ones that are most inspiring to me, again, like I said, every situation is different. But when I would watch these videos, and I'll just touch on two things that I've observed now that I'm part of the community. Number one, the most inspiration that I've gotten had been watching the people that are exactly what you said. It looks like there's a no-win possibility there.
Right.
And then they start the process. They go through and they itemize everything. And sometimes I've seen people where their cash flow is $100. So at the end of the month, they've got $100 left.
Right.
But they leverage that. They get excited about it. They catch the vision for it, and they multiply that 100 incrementally over a period of months, and before you know it, I've seen them get on, and you can see they list their chart before, they list their creditors before, and they list them after and show everything that they paid off. So it's just like life, isn't it? Momentum creates momentum, and so get some momentum started, even if it's very, very small.
Right.
And then the second thing is, I would caution everybody, and I guess this probably applies to just about every social media situation. What's heartbreaking to me is to get into some of these rooms and see the people that, A, don't have anything better to do than to tear other people down and try to destroy their hope.
Right.
Or B, they can't get their own mindset over the hurdle, so they just poo-poo it and go, it can't work or it won't work, when they've never actually even tried.
Right. Right.
So don't destroy other people's hope. Don't destroy it, because I'm telling you, I sit and watch people, Velocity's a scam, Velocity doesn't work. And I've seen people ask them in chat rooms and stuff, have you ever tried it? Well, no. but I can just tell I'm a major in math. I have my PhD in this and PhD in this, and it doesn't work. And I'm like, come on, because I'm living proof it works.
Right.
I'm telling you it works. It absolutely works. And that's part of the reason I came to you and volunteered to share this message, because if you don't hear anything else I'm saying, I'm a regular guy. I'm not being compensated for this message. I volunteered to come to Christy. I practically had to twist her arm to get her to let me say something. So I just want people to understand that there is something out there, and this is about freedom. It's about peace of mind.
Yes.
It's about quality of life, because I can't tell you the difference it's made in my wife and I. We didn't have a bad life, but we had that cloud hanging over us of the one that, that cloud. There's some people out there that understand what I'm saying. That cloud of I'm borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and I'm going to have to pay the piper eventually.
Right.
And you kind of stick your head in the sand and just, I'm telling you, grab onto this, dig into it, do your homework, do your due diligence, but more importantly, study it. Become a student of the philosophy, become a student of the technique, and you'll be amazed at what it can do to improve your life.
I completely agree. I have done things in my life now that I never dreamed were possible. My husband and I were talking last night because we found a property on the river that we really, really, really want. And we're just gung ho, but we've got to get, we got to talk to the owners, see exactly, what they want, all that fun stuff. But I told my husband, I already have it in my mind, my max of what I'm going to pay. And it's a good price because I want them to get a good price for their home. And I've already got it worked out in my mind how I'm going to pay for it. So I said, that is so different from the Christy 15 years ago. I was like figuring out how I was going to make a $50 a month credit card payment. And to think that we
were looking at, we went ahead and built this pool and racked up $60,000 debt in building this pool because we can't afford to do what we really want to do, which is buy an RV and travel together when we're retired.
Right.
Well, now I've already got that figured out. I know how to buy it and I know how to pay it off, so I don't have to sit there with that debt hanging over.
Isn't that awesome?
Money Max does it for me. So.
Right. That's beautiful. I am so happy for you guys. I am just, when I hear these testimonials of something that I actually made a suggestion on and somebody followed it and it worked, that just is like, to me, I even take a step back because I'm not up on a pedestal. I am literally down here with everyone standing on the ground trying to figure out what we're going to do, because the information that we were raised with, what we were taught, was not information to build us up. It was to keep us in that bond, to keep us slaves. And I feel like that so many people are really just coming above that. They're finding peace financially that they never dreamed was possible. And that makes me so happy. I'm so happy for you and your family. Now you can, if you're going to move into infinite policies or whatever, you are going to have the first lien that you're going to be able to chunk away. And you just have everything set up for your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids. So it's so awesome.
Yeah, we won't even get into it. It's caused me now to start looking like you are at investment properties. I'm looking at infinite banking.
Right.
There's concepts out there that, were never even on my radar before because it just didn't seem possible.
Exactly.
And it opens up the opportunity to explore those kind of concepts. And it's life changing. I just want to thank you, Christy, for, like I said, you had to put it out there. My wife found it, but you had to put it out there. And I can only imagine some of the resistance, some of the challenges that you run up against with this kind of message. But just know that, it's radically helped my family and I, and we're eternally grateful. So,
well, I appreciate that, and I am humbled that you say that. And like I said, I'm just down here trying to figure it out with everybody else and see if I can push something that's going to bring some peace to people. And it sounds like that you're there. So excited for you. I just want to keep getting updates from you. I want to hear how everything's going. I want to hear about the RV and how we did, where we're going, all that fun stuff.
You have my promise, and you just keep fighting the good fight, okay?
All right. Well, I appreciate you so much. I plan on it, and I hope you have a great weekend wherever you're traveling, because I know you're driving right now.
Well, we're finally here, but it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's an honor to get to speak with you. And like I said, anybody out there, if I can be of assistance, if I can be of help, I'm no different than Christy. I just want people to hear the message, know the message, and be able to change your lives. So feel free to reach out if I can be of assistance.
Well, I appreciate that. And if you are watching this video today, I want to thank you that you took the time to listen to this testimonial. It just did my heart good to hear how successful he is with not only Velocity Banking, but with the Money Max account. If you're interested in checking into the Money Max account as well, there's going to be a free webinar on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time that you are welcome to join. The link is down below in the description. Register and I will probably see you there because I've gotten to where I show up to watch those myself, and sometimes I wave and speak to everyone. So if you're interested, that is available to you. I also have links below as well. And I just appreciate you joining me today, and I hope you guys have a terrific weekend as well, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.